And you'll just see tourists like, da, 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 and you see their eyes go, and they hit their friend, look, best friend, buddy, how you been? Yeah, great to see you. No, it's like, but you're a tourist. You're not from here. You're not allowed to speak Lithuanian. I'm like, I live here. They're like, come on. And people just give me free drinks all the time. So then I started, that's because people ask me, so would you ever stop teaching to go YouTube full time? Because we could. One thing I tell people is like, look, if you're going to travel abroad, take a pack of Uno cards. Do you know why?
Welcome to the UIUC Talkshow. Our goal of this show is to introduce you to the most interesting people with the most interesting ideas. Today we have Dr. Wolters.
Hello. How are y'all doing?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. So we're here for the UIUC Talkshow. How can I talk about UIUC or geese or whatever? What would you like to talk about today?
So I want to start with something that I've heard many people. So we're both from a different country, so we understand we travel. And there's this notion that even when you travel or even when you meet people is that at first, I guess, going back to the travel thing, is that when you travel, you realize that people are not that different and that
Exactly.
they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a world where people travel more and they see that we're not that different, we're all the same people. How will the world look like if that happened?
I think this is one thing I very much promote in all of our travel channels, my wife's channels, my kids' channels, all kinds of stuff, is if you do go out, you really do, you're right. You start to see this, everyone's kind of the same. Like, I want my kids to have a good life. I want them to have a better life than me. I want to have food on the table. I want to have a job that, I feel rewarded in, And once you start to travel, you start to see, it's like, yeah, people may speak a different language, dress in different clothing, but really we are kind of the same. And I think once people travel more and more, when you first start traveling, it's like you're so surprised, Eiffel Tower and Arc de Triomphe, like you're so surprised by the kind of the sights. And then when you start to travel, you start to see, wait, the culture, the cultural differences. But then you start to see the cultural differences aren't that big. And so it's more like little changes, little differences that are out there. And that's one thing I really love, like on our travel stuff that I do, we really focus on helping people learn about the different cultures they're going to go to. So when you go there, you know the cultural differences, you start to see, okay, they're just little differences here and there, but we can get together and find ways to connect. And so for me, I think if more people were traveling and they got a chance to travel abroad, because I know unfortunately not everyone can, because it's not as many times you see like online, find out how to travel the world for free. That is a load of malarkey, okay? Like, you got to pay. Like, there's no free lunches out there. And I think that's one thing that sometimes some of the influencers out there give the false impression that, oh, I can see the world for $3. It's not the case. But if people do get that chance, if you do travel more, it really does. I mean, it's like we all think we're open-minded. We all want to think that we're open to all kinds of new things. But the more you travel, the more you realize, wow, there's more stuff I can see. So it's not necessarily you have tunnel vision. It's more that your kind of peripheral vision goes wider. You know what I mean? Like, you can start seeing more and more and more, and you realize, hey, there's more out there. And what's cool is the more you travel, you start to bring stuff back home. So like at our house, we'll use different words for that, like when it's time to eat, na mesa, which is like at the table in Portuguese, or andiamo, let's go in Italian, because that's what we have. My wife, favorite one is basta, which is stop. Yeah. But it's just one of those things. But also the food that brings in, how people live, it's kind of nice. Like, I grew up in one of the families, like when I was a little kid, we didn't eat dinner until really, really late. So it was never a big deal for me when I moved to Argentina, and dinner was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And you see the little kids at midnight hanging out with their parents, having dinner. Oh, that was normal at my house back in the U.S. But my friends, it was like, no, 5 p.m., we have dinner, like with grandma. 5 p.m. is dinner, and then the movie is 6, and then we're in bed at 8. And I'm like, I was so weird when I first stayed at like my friend's house when I was a kid, and I'm like, are you guys having like a late lunch or something? Like, I was so confused. And then as you get older, you realize like, no, different families have different things. And then you start to appreciate that, families have different things, and that's fine. And nothing's weird. Things are just different. I think that's one thing all the traveling does. You just start to notice some of the differences, not the weirdnesses, but the differences. And you're like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And I think that's one thing that traveling more really opens people's eyes to, hey, we're different, but we still have a lot of stuff that's the same.
How long did it take you to come to this realization? Like, how many trips or how many years did it take for you to see this pattern or see this similarity?
I would say I was like late 20s, probably. Like, because I started traveling abroad. I was an exchange student in high school in Australia and Finland. And, what brings you together when you're a kid, when you study abroad, is like music, sports, And then later in life, you realize it's music and sports. It's like you start making the connection. Like, wait, I've made friends everywhere we've gone in the world. We've traveled to Rwanda. We've gone to China. We've gone, I've taught there. South America. I'm like, it all comes back. We got music. We're going to have fun together. It's like, holy, wait a minute. You can make friends anywhere in the world. And so, like, that's one thing I kind of noticed when I first started studying abroad as a kid. And then later on in life, it really, like, reinforced that. So it's kind of been growing over the years. And now, when people are like, I don't know if I can go to that country, I'm like, why not? Like, well, what would I don't speak the language. So it doesn't matter. Like, one thing I tell people is, like, look, if you're going to travel abroad, take a pack of Uno cards. Do you know why?
Why?
Well, Uno, do you have to speak the language? Well, how do you if you know Uno cards, it's just numbers and colors. And everybody knows numbers, everybody knows colors. And so you can just play that way. And so it doesn't matter if you speak the language or not, you have a way to kind of interact.
Connect.
Exactly. And that's one of those things. So we take Uno cards with us all around the world. We played Uno everywhere. And what's interesting is you'll be surprised how many different rules for Uno there are in the world. Like, is the draw 4, you draw the 4 and it skips you? Or is it draw 4, then you get to play back?
Right.
Or can you play draw 4 on a draw 4? I mean, there's been some heated discussions. I remember in Nicaragua, we had some very heated discussions about what the real rules for Uno were. So it's kind of fun that you start to see, like, hey, wait, we can all get along and it's fine. So that's kind of like been my experience over the years.
Who do you play with? Like just random people? Or?
Oh yeah, like so if we're at a hotel or at a bar or someplace, we'll like sit and like we'll chat and because I'll go up and order. It doesn't matter if I speak the language or not. You can always figure it out. I always try to learn at least 10 words in a language, like yes, no, please, thank you, I would like, where is the bathroom? And then if there's something else funny to say, and so you have those or beer. And people are very appreciative. Like, it's amazing. Like, the smaller the country you go to with the fewer people that speak the language, if you learn a few languages, they super appreciate it. And so they're actually more welcoming to you. Like, oh my God, you tried to speak. Like, I lived in Lithuania, and I lived there long enough. I spoke Lithuanian, actually taught in Lithuanian. Like, now it's horrible. But, like, the time I spoke it, and so I'd go to a restaurant and order, and people were like, you're a tourist. You're not from here. You're not allowed to speak Lithuanian. I'm like, I live here. They're like, come on. And people just give me free drinks all the time. So then I started meeting more and more people, and so it really got me to learn more. And even if I didn't speak the language, people will make an effort to communicate with you. And there's some cultures that it doesn't matter. Like people go, I don't speak Italian. It doesn't matter. They'll still communicate with you, and you'll still understand what's there. They'll still take your kid back to show them how to make pasta. So you get to have a romantic dinner with your wife, which we've done multiple times when our kids were little in Italy. And so you start seeing that, like, yeah, you're right. Grandmas do steal think about it. Is there anyone in the world that some old grandma doesn't come up and take the baby and like want to hold the baby and go, oh, what a cute baby? No, of course not. That's everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, So it's been kind of a fun thing.
I think the interesting part about what I thought was that you're able to make friends everywhere. One of the things that we found to like notice in like our generation is people are struggling to like make friends and like are feeling alone all the time, even though like we're surrounded by so many people from so many different cultures. Like UIUC in a way is like a mini world, right? It's like a collection of people from
everywhere,
all around the planet.
Yeah,
and
literally everywhere. It's crazy.
You're getting a taste of every single culture if you just interact, but just somehow still that hesitation or something's not clicking.
And I think we had the fact that we all kind of we got social media, so I can talk to my friend from grade school from 50 years ago or 40 years ago. I can talk to them and I'll just text him, but I won't talk to the person next to me.
Right.
Like I have like student projects, and I'm like, part of the thing is like, you have to call the client. They're like, can we text them? I'm like, no. You have to call them, like on the phone, because the impact of an actual phone conversation is much more than a text message.
Right.
And people have kind of gotten away from that. Because, even for me, I'm like, if I'm going to order pizza, even 5 years ago, I'm like, I'm just going to call. Now I'm like, oh, no. Do they have online ordering? Like, I'll check it. Where is it? I'm not going to call them because they're late, but I'm going to check that again. And we've kind of fallen away from human interaction. That's one thing I think is really great about travel, because you're forced to interact with people because you're going to different places. You got to order food because, excuse me. If you're at home, or you're at home, or at the dorm, it's cafeteria, you just walk through, put it on there. There's no talking, no looking. But you go out to a restaurant, you have to say, good day, I'm Mark, I'm going to be your waiter today. What would you like? And you have to have some kind of interaction, right? And so that's there. And I think it's really sad because COVID also, not only we had the technology was kind of pulling us apart, but then COVID happened, which made us all isolated.
Right.
So then we really went to just electronic communication, whether it's Zoom, whether it's YouTube, whether it's, just texting. I'm older. I have my family with me, so I was okay. But I think of the students that you think about when you're junior high, when you're really forming who you are, they lost those 2 years. Those kids, they don't know who they are, right? Because this is where you start having your friends and stuff. And so that made it even harder because they didn't have friends for 2 years. And so now they're not talking to people. They don't know how to talk to people. And I see that now in the students that are here, like presentation skills and stuff is not what it used to be. But we as a university, Geese, like one of the things we try to do, I do these soft skills seminars where it's like, I see like we did one on networking, we're gonna do one on, how to do professional presentations because students just don't know. Because think about it, I mean, doing a presentation on Zoom, it's not real. Like you can have it sitting right behind the screen. Yeah, we know how you all cheat on the exams. We know. But it's like, when you actually do a real presentation with people, when you have the people looking at you, or here's one that always gets my students when they do their presentations, how many people don't pay attention? They're like, oh, Professor Wolters, how do you do it? Like, you have all these students and they're just on their computer or their phone and they're not paying attention to you. I'm like, it's their money they're throwing away. Like, and I'm not gonna waste your money because you actually want to pay attention because you want to throw your money away. So that's been one of those things. I've seen a lot more of that. And so that's why, I have videos for all of my classes. So but it's not like me talking at the whiteboard talking. It's me traveling the world. And I'm like, here's, we're doing, like supply chain management in Rwanda. So I'll use the example from Rwanda when we're in Rwanda to make it more interesting to kind of bring it in. Because I've seen over the last few years, that's how people have really changed. Like, I'm going to learn on YouTube. I'm going to, interact that way. And so I've tried to do that. But that's one of those things, you're right. Like, for students, it's really tough how we've kind of fallen apart. So we have to make a concerted effort, not just like the university or the College of Business or Geese or whatever, but we as people, we need to call up our friends. Because how many people, like I see in my like adult friends, everyone kind of like had their bubble. Like they had their cul-de-sac or they had their apartment building and they only hang out with their friends in that apartment building during COVID. And now that we're, a year away out of it, people haven't like branched out to their old friends. And we had Thanksgiving dinner with some friends of ours that we literally used to drink with and have parties with at least twice a week for 5 years, maybe 6 years straight. And then COVID happened. We didn't see anybody for 6 months. We didn't see and then we've seen him probably, like we'll see him quarterly now. Like, what happened? We're together. Like, why aren't we seeing each other? I'm like, I don't know. Because we've gotten so used to being home and alone and stuff. And we have to make it a point. And that's what's tough is getting out of that shell, breaking that loneliness shell and isolationist to go out and talk to people. And it's tough because a lot of people become very introverted during this time. And it's tough to like break out. I'm very an extroverted person. I love talking. But even for me, sometimes I'm like, they canceled their plans. Shucks, we can't meet up, So that's one of those things you really have to like work on. Like I actually had a meeting today. I was talking with the accounting faculty about putting together an event just to get students to come do stuff together. It's called What's in It for Me? Because that's also another thing. People aren't doing things. What's in it for me? What's the big deal? Like that's all gonna be what's in it for me. Where we're gonna talk about the importance of being in contact with people. What does relationships mean? Not like romantic relationships, just relationships in general. We need people. So it's a really big issue that I think like we all should be dealing with because the ramifications of a lot of people with very bad social skills is not a really good place you want to be.
Yeah. In a way, I think it could be also a cultural like problem because people come from all over the world and then they see people, that's how people act. So therefore they think that's how they act. But in reality, that's not.
Yeah.
So if you have to, advise or tell someone, what would you tell them in the sense of like, how can you create more interactions and change that cultural so that if I'm sitting on the bus, like the normal thing is to talk to the bus driver or like the normal thing is to talk to the person next to me because that's just the normal thing. And if you're in your phone, that's like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's one of those things. You have to realize that what are the social norms, how have they changed? But let's not forget, when you get on the bus, sometimes it's just the politeness. Hey, thanks for picking me up. Even though like we have to stop you. I'm like, but thank you. You sit down like, do you mind if I sit here? They're probably not going to say no. And if they do say no, then you probably should sit someplace else. But you're like, hey, thank you. But here's the thing, you're taking the same bus day after day or week after week, or if you have a Monday class, that's your Monday bus. Those same people are probably going to be on again and again. And maybe it's not the first day we're best friends, but how you been? Yeah, great to see you. No, it's like it's like when you go to the gym. Think about it, you go to the gym, first time you go there, you say hi to nobody. You like check in, they're like, hello. And you do your workout and you see people around there. Second time you go, hey, it's like goes from hello to hey to the person you check in. Then you saw the guy that was on the treadmill by you, saw him again, then maybe give it a little hey. And then like the third or fourth visit, you say, hey, hi. And then like the sixth or seventh visit, you're like, hey, I'm Mark, what's your name? We've been working out together for 3 weeks now. And that's just things. Sometimes you just need more time in order to break that ice. Whereas before, people kind of went straight for breaking the ice. And that's why sometimes you have to make yourself say the thank you, say the please, just say that, hey, how are you? Hey, I'm Mark, what's up? And that's one of the things, like if you're looking for that silver lining in the pandemic and stuff is when you look at traveling the world, you're looking for people. One of the things people don't talk, why they don't talk is, I don't know what we can talk about. You know, I grew up in the middle of Illinois. You know, what the heck can I talk about? You know, and I'm like, to somebody that's from someplace else. Well, you know what? What were you doing in 2020 when the pandemic hit? What did you watch on Netflix when you were stuck at home that summer? What was the craziest thing that you couldn't find at the grocery store? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. That stuff happened everywhere. And now we all have a common kind of thing we can talk about. And that's just it. We just have to have that one topic to start talking. That's why sports, Uno, it's something common we have. And from there, we can branch out, you know, and get to meet more people and get to know more people. But we got to start somewhere. And sometimes that C is just that hello, how are you kind of thing that we got to start doing. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of like how I was seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, today I was also at the gym, funnily enough. And there's people like waiting and they're all doing the same thing, but they're just using a different machine. Then there's like this whole line. And I was talking to my friend that I met the exact same way.
See?
And I was telling him, you know, like this has to be a culture thing because they're doing the same thing. And I'm sure they all want to like just work out together because it's more fun. Like they want to meet the people. Like, and they just like, they both want the same thing, but because just awkward to talk to the next person.
I can't spot for you. I don't know who you are. I never saw you before, but sometimes it's just, hey, can you give me a spot, dude?
Right, and like they all want the same thing. Like, why wouldn't you want to talk to someone?
Yeah, and I think you're right with the cultural thing. Some cultures, it is very much like, I don't talk to people I don't know. Like, it's funny, like in Denmark, like I've done many videos in Denmark, and I always say the Danes don't care. They don't care about you at all. It's not that they hate you and want you to die and don't want you to, they just don't care. Like, you're not my friend. You are irrelevant to my existence, so I don't care. Like, that's how they are. So you don't talk to them. Like, if you talk to them, like, what? Why are you talking to me? Like, I don't know you. And you have cultures that are like that. So sometimes it's hard to start those conversations. Those are ones, it takes longer. How do I prove that I'm someone worth getting to know? You have to see him multiple times. You have to prove that friendship. It's like any relationship. You know, your best friend, today was not your best friend when you first met them. It took time. It took meeting after meeting of relationship to build up that trust. And we just got to get out. The thing is, Netflix doesn't have as many good shows anymore. Disney Plus or Hulu, they've got the good shows now, I guess. I don't know. But like, we need to sometimes get away and say, I have to force myself to do that. Like I've gone on multiple trips with friends of mine I hadn't seen because of COVID. And because I'm like, I want to see all my friends. In 2021 was going visiting friends. So we were over Europe, South America, the US, just to see friends. And that was all it was. But the thing is now that I've seen them all, I'm like, okay, what now? Like, I should see them again. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But you don't think about it because we've been so isolated. And even if it was only 18 months, it was 18 months that really impacted a lot of us. And it takes us time. You know, it's like putting on those freshman 15, they don't come off the same, like as easy as putting them on. It's the same thing with getting back to where we were. So
it's the same with also working from home, like the same culture, right? Like we were forced to do it because of the pandemic, and now people feel more comfortable doing it rather than going to the offices and doing everything. So even there was a short period of time, like they might have been working at the office for like many years. Oh yeah, but just that 1 or 2 years.
And you know what's interesting is you have people that are like, I'm never going to go back to the office again, which I don't agree with. And there's people that's like, I'll only go back to office, which I don't agree with. I think what you'll see is kind of a hybrid. They'll be like, oh yeah, 3 or 4 days a week, and then you get your one day, you get to be hybrid or online or whatever, because the benefits we've seen actually did help with productivity. But one of the things I've seen in my job here is like, I miss my colleagues. And if you don't have the colleagues to kind of bring you in, you kind of wander away. Yeah, and I wonder if that's not like we had the quiet quitting that people talked about, and the great resignation, people leaving. I wonder how those people like quiet quit or just, the great resignation were just because I don't have any friends here. I don't have any connections here. Because that's what people get people to stay. It's like, I have connections. Like, I'm not going to, I love it. I went to Illinois. My dad went to Illinois. My brother went to Illinois. My kids are from here. It's like, people laugh. Like, what's it like being in town? I'm like, I don't know. Ask my sons. But I'm like, it's a whole different thing. And I think I think that it's a very complicated topic.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we all kind of went online and bringing us back, I think, as people start to get used to talking to people again and being with people, I think that's going to make it easier to come back in the office. Like if I know one of my buddies is going to be in the office, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be there today. Like, I want to be in. I'm going to make sure I see Nehemiah. I got to see Eric, I want to see Carlos, like they're friends of mine, right? So it's like, I don't see them as much because we're all like the hybrid kind of stuff now. So I think that's where you might see some companies saying, look, we want you back in the office. You're maybe you were more productive at home, but you weren't as happy. Because are you really happy if you're sitting at home alone? I mean, as much as we all like Netflix and chill and stuff, you eventually get to the point where I've watched everything on Netflix. Like, I go on Netflix, I'm like, there is nothing. I've got nothing, there. So, like, what am I going to do? And I think the work environment, the things that they offer, the camaraderie, is one of the things. If companies can find a good way to balance the work at home and be in the office to get that camaraderie back, I think you have companies who can be very successful with that hybrid model.
So you've been everywhere. Is there anything else on the bucket list?
So I've tried to go to Israel 3 times, and 3 times have been canceled because COVID, and other family stuff, we couldn't go. So that's one. Egypt's another one.
Really?
Egypt's another big one, which is funny because like Egypt's when I told myself, when I finish my PhD, that's where I'm going to go. And then I did. And then the Arab Spring happened, and I was like, well, maybe it's not the best time to go. And so then it kind of got pushed back, and then, kids happened, and, things happened. But this summer,
you are?
Israel, Jordan, Egypt.
Yeah.
We got those coming up. So I'm like, finally, I'm getting there. Like, because I've been to pretty much every other place I want to go to in the world. But literally, it's Egypt, Israel are the 2 biggest ones I want to go to. Then, like, third that I haven't been to yet is probably New Zealand. So, because it was funny, because I was exchange student in Australia when I was a kid. And I'm like, oh, I'll get back here. I didn't get back. I didn't get back to New Zealand, though. So... But
were you considering going to the moon or space or?
So my wife has told me I'm not allowed to go to the moon or Mars. Because when they had the big thing about go to Mars and like you die at Mars, like a few years as a Dutch company, I'm like, okay, I wouldn't go that far. But I think it'd be kind of cool to go to the moon and cool to go to Mars. My wife's like, no. Like it wasn't like, haha, you're funny. She's like, no. Because I was serious. I'm like, I love space. Like if you look at my YouTube stuff, like I like all these astronomy channels and science, SciShow and all kinds. I love it. SciShow Space. My kids and I watch these things all the time. So I'm like, ooh, honey. She's like, no, you're not going to Mars. You're not going to the moons. I don't know. Maybe she'll let me go up to space though. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, I if my wife would let me, I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think in about 20 years or so, I think you might be able to.
Yeah, well, there's some people go up now, but I just don't have the $20 million on me.
Do 100K, I think.
Oh, 200K?
Yeah.
I don't have that on me either. So, 20 years, and it's like, it's like the same as taking an Uber at like surge time. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
So why Egypt and like why Israel? Like what do you want to see there? Or
the pyramids and Luxor and just the history of Egypt, like, and same with Israel, the history that's there. Like those are 2 places that I've always wanted to go, and then never had the opportunity to go. And now that I have the opportunity to go, then with COVID and everything, I mean, literally, like we had it all set up. Someone got sick, so literally, like we were supposed to leave the next day, and it was like we cannot leave because it was not a happy sign. So they were okay in the end, but it was like, okay, we can't go then. And then it was COVID. So, because some places I've actually saved because I want to take my kids. Like Israel, honestly, for Israel, one of the bigger ones is like I want to take my kids there. I want them to see the Holy Land. I want them to go around. I want us to go to Jordan, go to Petra, see all those things. Like, hey, we're going to watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I don't know why. And then it's like, oh my God, it's from the movie. Because we used to do that to our kids when they were little. Like we'd show them movies and cartoons of places we're going to go. And then they'd be like, oh, that's the Coliseum from Bugs Bunny. You're like, oh, I had no idea. This must be your city, buddy. He's like, yeah, it's mine. So like my oldest, who's 16 now, like I remember when he was like 3, we did that. We showed him there's an old like Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny, and they're like Roman soldiers. And they go to the Coliseum and they're fighting there, and it's like the whole thing. I'm like, yep, yeah, you should check that out. And then we went to Italy like the next week, and he's like you just saw his face go. And you're like, oh, I guess this is your place, man. So then he always loved Rome because that was his place. So it was kind of funny.
That happened to me once. I didn't live in the U.S. yet, so and I went to New York Central Park and the zoo.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I saw the movie, the Penguins of Madagascar or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're there, and I couldn't. That was like the only moment I was like, oh my goodness! Like, I did not expect it.
And that's the thing is sometimes there's places you don't realize they're actually using as the set.
Right.
Like like the Madagascar stuff. Like no, they actually designed it like the zoo.
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, and you don't realize it. You're like, oh my God, the design like this. I'm like, yeah, we said that. It's the, and you're like, no, but you really did it. Like, yeah, we told you that.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of those things like when you travel around, you're like, oh, wow, huh. You know, it's like I was in Philadelphia and they have this Rocky statue, which in the movie is like on top of these big steps, but in real life it's down at the bottom.
Right.
And so I had to get the picture there. I'm like, I'm not running up those steps. But then once I saw the statue and you see everybody take the picture of the Rocky statue and then they all go run up the stairs, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna run my fat butt up there. Okay, and so I'm like, da 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 da, running up there. And I'm like, yeah, and everyone does it. Doesn't matter, young, old, everyone does the Rocky.
Right.
Like, yeah. So it is kind of funny when you see it, like how you can be inspired by some of those things.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that some people don't realize is when they travel around, like movies can be a thing that shows you a different part of the world. You know, like sometimes you see stuff, you're like, oh my God, this is where I was. Like we were in Rwanda and where they had Hotel Rwanda, which were saving people during the genocide 28 years ago. Like they had the sign, but where they filmed it, it wasn't the actual same hotel. But where it happened, you're like, oh my God, this is where it happened. But I saw the movie, like, this doesn't look like the movie. Like, no, because they filmed it someplace else.
Right.
But this is where it was. So I'm like, I'm having breakfast where these people were being saved from genocide. You're like, oh my God. Like it sometimes you see things, it just really impacts you. You know, whether you're going to the concentration camps in Germany or Poland, or you go to the 9/11 memorial in New York City, you're just like, wow. Like sometimes it can really hit you. And then sometimes it can be a really great thing, like my kid with the Coliseum. You're like, oh. Or like anytime you see people coming to Greece, they come to Athens, and the first time, there's this one street, pedestrian street you walk down, and when you turn left, you see the Acropolis up on the hill, or the Parthenon on top of the Acropolis.
Right.
And you'll just see tourists like, da, 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 da. And you see their eyes go, oh. And they hit their friend, look! And it's like this one, because there's a church right there, and you're like, yeah, it's right up there. Like I should just make a video of just people like seeing it for the first time, because they're so like, oh, that's what I've dreamed of my entire life. So it's funny. Like my wife, the first time she went, she actually was climbing over. She was in the middle seat, and there's this old Greek lady next to her at the window. My wife, she's tiny. She's like 110 pounds. Back then, she probably weighed like 85 pounds. She was just tiny. And she's like looking over, just crying on this old grandma. And the grandma's like petting her. It's okay, honey. She's like, I'm here. Because her family's Greek and she'd never been. And so she was like, I'm here. I can't believe it. She's just crying. And like the old lady's like petting her. And she's like, it was one of those things, like when you see people, how they can enjoy travel, how these things can really like light them up and make the emotional experience. It's amazing. And sometimes you don't realize when you're traveling around, like, why are people crying at this? It could mean something very important to them. And it's I don't know, it's one of those reasons why I love traveling, because you never know when you're going to turn a corner and go, oh my God, it's the Parthenon. Oh my goodness. It's, so yeah. It's Juan David.
So when I travel, like there are usually two ways. Mm-hmm. So there's a way how you do that. You research everything and then you do that. But I think there's also a beautiful part of just not researching anything and just, like
spontaneous travel.
Just kind of following. Like, have you done that?
Oh yeah.
Like, which one do you enjoy more?
So since I film so much, like I have to plan out my scripts and stuff. So my stuff's more planned now. Back in the day, it was more like, I got into La Paz, Bolivia. Well, I can go north or south. Which way are we going to go? Which bus leaves first? The south one. We're going to the Salar Uyuni in the south of Bolivia. Bye. Take the bus down south. The best part is they're like, oh yeah, it's only like a 5-hour drive. When the road's finished, and then it was like a 12-hour drive of craziness, But you're down there like, hey, you want to go on a Jeep tour for 3 days in the Salt Flats? How much is it? I don't know how much it was at the time. I'm like, I got the money, let's do it. Like those were fun because it really was spontaneous, trying something new. I remember there's a buddy of mine, he was traveling with a guy, a friend of his, who they weren't friends by the time that I had met them. And so it was literally like the guy did this, like we're on the metro, I was going to get my train from Vienna to someplace, and we're on there, and he literally's got his buddy's on the other side of the metro. The door opens on this side, and he's like, doors are closed. And he goes, bye. And just stepped at the back of the door. The door is closed. His friend's like, what the hell? And I'm like, I guess you guys aren't traveling together anymore. I still the look on his face was hilarious. He's like, what?
So he left?
Yeah, his friend just stepped out of the metro.
Like, so he was alone then in the train.
Yeah, he was alone on the train. I was there too. I'm like, I'm going to the airport or the train station, so, whatever. And he just the funniest thing. So I was like, all right. I think your friend doesn't like you anymore. That was another thing I saw. Like when I traveled around when I was younger, you'd always bump into other travelers because you kind of have the same paths. And there'd be friends that were still friends. And there was like a lot of like people dating that were no longer dating. Like, oh, you're traveling Europe by yourself. You're traveling South America by yourself. Oh, I started with my boyfriend. I started with my girlfriend. I started with my partner. I'm like, you're like, are they in the bathroom? No, they're in Brazil and I'm in Argentina. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, all right, I need to go that way. So be careful when you're traveling. That's a very big test case. You want to see if your relationship's going to work long term.
Have you been everywhere in South America?
Not everywhere. I haven't been the 3 ones on top. Guyana, French Guiana, and Suriname. No, Suriname. I can't remember.
They don't really count.
I know. That's what people always say. Well, it's actually French. They have euros there.
Yeah.
So the only one of like people think traditional South America is Venezuela. I haven't been to.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
they're all
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, but no, like they're for me. I get really upset because people be really mean to us sometimes. Like, well, you only do Europe videos. I'm like, actually, we have like 400 videos of South America and Central America. The fact that YouTube doesn't show you South America videos is because you're only watching European travel. That's not me. Because honestly, if you have a family, going to Central and South America is way better with kids than going to Europe. Because there's more outdoor stuff. You have more adventure things. You have hiking. You have zip line. You have all kinds of outdoors things. And people are cool with bringing your kids. They can be up all night or not all night, and no one's judging you. And so for me, that's why we love doing it. Like we're going to Brazil again. Like I actually lived in Brazil, and we're going back to visit my host father who's there. My host mother, she passed away during COVID, so I couldn't go for the funeral. So we're going to pay our respects. And it's like I want to go back. And it's like I go back, and then I go back to Buenos Aires like 2 weeks later. I'm like, can I just stay? No. But yeah, no, South America is fantastic. I think not enough people go do that. I think that's one of the things, if you look at a marketing side of things, people get scared off of traveling certain destinations because there's a story. Well, like in Rwanda, people are like, oh, the genocide. I'm like, the genocide in 27 years ago, which was horrible. Like 1 million people were killed in 100 days. And the stories you'd hear, and Rwanda does not, like you go to any of the genocide memorials, they don't hold back. Like they'll have a picture of a little girl right here standing there. It's like, this is little Sarah. She loved playing with dolls. She was killed, and they will graphically display or graphically tell you how she died. And the thing is, like, that was part of their reconciliation and all kinds of. You're like, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps remembering the stuff you saw. Like they're like, 15 under, you can't come. Like it's hardcore. Some of the parts, and but people are like, no, I'm not going to go there. Like we went to Rwanda. People were like, there was nothing. Like there's some like Lonely Planet books of like, oh, go see the gorillas. I'm like, no, there's more than that. So we actually spent like a week in Rwanda going around. We never got to see the gorillas because we had little kids, because you can't take little kids to the gorillas. And we're like, we loved it. Like it's super clean. People are super friendly. Everyone was so excited to see tourists because no tourists go there because no one knows about it. And then we'd go by the schools and people would like wave at us, but then they'd see our kids and they're like, you don't understand. Nobody takes their kids to Rwanda. And so we were there. And so like my kids were playing soccer with kids in Rwanda all over the country. It was fantastic. But people are so scared.
How was the marriage that happened there?
Oh, the marriage was there?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
How did that happen?
So it's called the Gorilla Guardians Village. And what it is ex-poachers that used to poach the gorillas. They basically like, like when you went on like tours of kids, of like when you were a kid, like, oh, here's the historical village, like what it was like living 100 years ago in our town.
Right.
So it was all about Rwandan culture. So they'd say like, here's how we make our jewelry, here's how we would get married, here's how we made banana beer. They teach you how to hunt with a bow and stuff. And then, they go around and like, oh, and they're like, we want to do a marriage for you. Like, what? Yeah, a traditional Rwandan marriage from before, And so literally they take me into a hut and they, we all get dressed up and everything. And they take me to the hut. They leave me in the hut. Like, you stay here. We drop her off at the door. I'm like, okay. But my wife, they dress her up in all these gowns and everything. And they literally walk her around on this, I don't know what you'd call it. Like it's like almost looks like a cot, but up on their shoulders.
Right.
And they're singing and dancing. My wife's just crying because it's so beautiful. Like it's just such a great experience. And she's like, and we goes around and they come and they're like, okay. And the guy explains to her, it's like, look, it's all for her. And then then once they drop at the door, then she's your responsibility. You have to take care of her. And then that's why they talk about like, here's the gifts you would give. So it was like very educational, but it was very moving as well to see that. My wife still talks about it. Like, we got married 3 times. That was our third marriage. Like third time we got married was there because we had the justice of the peace. When you go get the stuff signed at the courthouse, and then there was the at the ceremony with the pastor and everything, and then there was the Rwanda wedding. And so it was really cool. Like we had a wonderful experience. That's why I'm very much pro. Like go see the world, because things that you might think aren't good might not be that bad. But you still have to be smart about it. There's certain places like there are still problems, obviously, but yeah, that was a really eye-opening experience and a very cool wedding.
Do you have a ritual or something, a tradition that you follow regardless of where you go?
I cross the plane when I get on it. So I think maybe that won't crash. Anytime we go travel anywhere, we always say like a prayer for all the kids. We all say that. But like when we go, not so much. Like there's certain things we always do. Like we always make sure we only eat local food.
Yeah, like that's one thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So like it's always like, there's always, we're going to see the local food. It was a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I feel like if I'm nearby, I've got to go see it because it's UNESCO World Heritage. Like those things are very important to me, and I want my kids to see that so they can appreciate the world heritage that's out there, so they're more open-minded as well. I think that's another thing with travels. Like you get your kids out there to see it too. Like they start young. I've been playing with kids from all over the world since I was a baby, so it doesn't make any difference to me. You know, and that's one of the really cool things about travel. But yeah, like traditions that we do. No, eat local, stay in like local spots. We do usually try to talk to the bartenders. And here's one thing: is like if you want information about a city, don't ask the Uber driver because Uber drivers a lot of times are from out of town, so they just follow the app. You get a taxi. The taxi driver will give you like the whole background of the city, as well as their family members in different parts of the city you drive through. And so that can be kind of a fun thing. So whenever I get into a town I don't know super well, I'll make sure I take a taxi from the airport instead of like an Uber or the public transportation just because I want some more local flair. And it's kind of funny how you'll get that.
Right. Do you think there's a way to make traveling more accessible to people? Because I know like that's how you started your channel, right?
Yeah.
You wanted people to see the things that they're missing, like they cannot physically just go to all these countries. But the fact that you are able to, and the fact that you can go to so many places and like shoot and like explore the culture and bring it to people. Sure, they can watch it on YouTube and like learn, but it's a different feeling being there and seeing it through their own eyes. So how do you think we can make it more accessible to people?
Well, I think one of the things is you have so many people now that go out and travel and make these videos, and there's the Instagram, TikTok version of travel, which is not realistic.
Glorified.
You're like, believe me, you are never going to be alone on the Great Wall of China. I can't tell you pictures I've seen where I was alone. I'm like, no, you weren't. There were like 3 million people right behind you. Like, this is the time lapse, so they disappear. Like, those things really get me. But to make travel more accessible, one thing people have to realize is you don't have to travel abroad to travel. Sometimes it's just exploring your own neighborhood. Like think about the things that are here. Like in the fall, this is one of the best places to be because you've got, the Curtis Orchard, you got the reindeer ranch you can go to with the maze, which you may think, well, that's stupid. That's just something here. But you know what? Whenever we have friends visit, they want to go out to the Curtis Orchard. They want to do the reindeer, reindeer ranch, the corn maze out north of town. They're like, yeah, the turkey run. I mean, you don't have to, like, for example, myself, I didn't travel international. I studied abroad when I was 16. But before that, like my entire childhood, our vacation was going from Illinois to Ohio, and not like cool Ohio. We went to Toledo. Like no offense, Toledo's fine, but we went to Cedar Point, which is like Great America, the Six Flags amusement park, and then we came back. That's all we ever did my entire childhood. And then only after I studied abroad, then all of a sudden I started traveling more. But it was like we still went around. Like we would go, like we live in Quincy, which is on the other side of the state, and we go to Hannibal, we go to St. Louis, we go to Springfield, we go to Chicago. But it was like we would do doable things that we could do on the money that we had. And I think that's one of the things is some people think, well, travel can only mean it's really expensive and I can do that. But I tell my students, I'm like, look, if you're going to travel, when you're young, don't travel in the summer. Because who else travels in the summer? Everybody. So therefore, hotel prices are higher, airline prices are higher, lines are longer. Go in October, go in March, go in these other times, these shoulder seasons when you still have decent weather, things are open. And the thing is like going in January, you can go super cheap in January to fly, but lots of stuff's closed. And it's hard to enjoy, France when you can't feel your fingers, because you're so cold. It's like you find the shoulder season, you can save so much money. And I've priced it out. Like I used to go to Ireland in the fall for $450. If you want to take that same trip in the summer, it's like $1,500. I mean, and another thing I think people need to realize is sometimes you want to look at always kind of look at a range of dates. Don't be hard set. Like I get off on Friday, so we're leaving Friday right after work. I'm like, well, why don't you leaving on Sunday? It might be cheaper. Like sometimes it's literally hundreds of dollars difference, just one day difference here and there. Like for example, if you're gonna fly around Thanksgiving, if you fly on Thanksgiving Day, the prices are way cheaper flying on Thanksgiving Day than the day before the day or that Sunday afterwards because it spikes up. So when I used to travel around, this is the first Thanksgiving I haven't traveled since I was probably your age. honestly. No, I traveled then too. So like since I was like in high school. But this year we didn't because kids came home for the, Kids get older, then you had like, oh, the kids are coming home for Thanksgiving. So we had that, but it would be like we leave on like that Sunday before, and then we'd come back on the Monday after Thanksgiving. And it would be $400 difference. And with 4 people in your family, there's $1,600. There's my entire week of hotels paid for just because I stayed one more day. And so sometimes you play around with those things. And what's cool is with technology today, you have all these different websites, kayak.com, Skyscanner, that will give you an idea, hey, you know what, today's not a good day to buy. Like those days, why don't you look on that Thursday? And they'll tell you these are better prices, so you can look around. So being flexible makes a big difference.
Right.
So.
We always travel, and back when I lived in Venezuela, like Europe, like New York, it was always cheaper October and March, and because my mom didn't, she had her own company or whatever, she didn't have to a job order, so we could just October and April, March, it was great.
It was great, yeah. And I mean, literally, you're paying for a whole free, like almost a free month sometimes if you had a big family. I mean, it's unbelievable the price differences. They're like so.
Even in the US, like if you want to go to like Disney or something, like if you go like in November, like I went to like last November.
Yeah.
I just went and I finished like Universal and Island Adventure in I don't know 2 hours, like 1 hour each, and I would repeat, and there's no one there.
Yeah. But then people will go like, well, we can't take the kids out of school, so we're going to go during Christmas, New Year's, which is the busiest week. I have some family that are going there. I'm like, why are you going Christmas Day through? I'm like, that is like the worst time to go there because it's so full. They're like, well, that's where we wanted to go. I'm like, okay, have fun. We will not be joining you.
It's so hard to have fun when it's like packed and like.
Yeah.
Then it's like more about waiting than.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing is because I've taken my kids to Disney. Thank goodness they did not like it, so we never had to go back.
Did they not like it?
No, they were not, because they went to Universal and they're like, oh, cool rides, people we knew, like, and then they went to Disney and they liked Frontierland because it was like the old fashioned rides. They went to like Tomorrowland and stuff. They're like, this is lame. Like we don't, and they were little too. They were like 3 and like 8.
Wow.
They're like. So I'm like, oh, you got like we got in early because we stayed on property, so we got an hour early. So we got all the stuff, used our fast passes and stuff, and it was like a parade at like 3 or something. And they're like, can we go back to the hotel and go on the slides? I'm like, you want to go back to the hotel so I don't have to spend like $50 per person to eat and for dinner? Sure. So we go back and they had more fun because we were all alone by ourselves at the giraffes are over here because we're at like Wild Kingdom. The giraffes are over here. The kids are going down the slide. And I'm like, this is perfect. Nobody's in line for the food. So it actually worked out quite well. But yeah, Disney's not my jam. But one thing is with travel, because it is expensive, there are, like, if you go to Disney, you'll see people that are kind of upset. They're like, we're spending so much money, so everyone has to have a good time. And that's one of those things. If you go and it's like you're spending that much money on it, sometimes like just enjoy yourself. Don't focus on the price because you know it's going to be insane expensive. Focus on enjoying it because then you're like, if you spend a lot, but it was fun, you're not as upset. Because some people be upset, if they get your order wrong at McDonald's. Because, but it's only $1. They messed up your cheeseburger. It was $1. But I was so upset by that. I'm like, dude, let it go. Sometimes you got to let it go. Just enjoy the moment and it goes a lot farther. So, because I still remember there was parents that were having a really tough time when I was there. I was like, I felt really sorry for them because they were so upset, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. So.
Something I'm curious about is that you're a marketing professor, and in most of your videos, you use a negative like connotation, meaning like don'ts of something or like the shock or something. Like, is there a reason for that?
Oh yes.
What is it?
Because nobody wants to watch the 10 things you should do someplace. They want to see what you don't do in someplace. And what's funny is my don'ts videos are actually very positive. It's like, don't forget to do this. And how I've done that is because I saw if I give people advice that's a negative thing, people get really mad and they turn off the video. They're not going to listen. So I'm like, look, don't, and the thing is, if I give them some good advice, which I always try to, always honest stuff, like good stuff, and then it's easier to give them some more of the serious tips. So it was an easier way for me to get people to watch videos so they could get to know the culture so they don't make some mistakes, some culture mistakes, but also don't forget to do some fun things. So it's not all negative. It was very positive because there'll be people that'll comment, I got on here to say horrible things as you said, don't visit my place, but watch this. This is actually really nice. You have a really good idea. You know exactly what my culture is like. I'm like, awesome. But you have to do that to get, it's not clickbait. It's just like, look, I put it, it's just how I phrase it.
It's marketing.
It's marketing. Because no one's going to watch, hey, 10 things you should know before you go to Venezuela. They're not going to watch that. They got to see, they got to have something that ties them in to why should I? What's in it for me? Okay, well, don't do this when you go there so you have a better trip. Right? And so don't forget to do this so you have a better trip. And so that's what worked. And it was funny because the first set of videos that really worked really well for our travel stuff is these 5 things you love and hate about going to a destination. Because all the travel blogs and all the guidebooks were saying how every place was wonderful. Not every place is wonderful. And I think of these families that they're spending all this money, like maybe it's their only trip to Europe in their life, and a guidebook says this place is fantastic, but it's actually garbage. Think about it, like one time in your life. And you spend a 10-day vacation, you spend 2 days in the city because this guidebook says it was great. That's 20% of your only trip to Europe in your entire life was wasted because somebody, got an extra beer to write a nice review or didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings? Like, that's not right. Like, if you have students that are from my class, I'm like, look, my job is to help you get ready for the real world. I want to help you. So sometimes to help people, you got to tell them the good and the bad. And so that's what we started to do with our travel stuff. We started to do these 5 love and hates, and that really resonated with people because there wasn't anybody telling the truth. And now things have gone that it's like, oh, the horriblest, worstest thing ever. And they like overdo it. You're like, okay, you're going too far. So like we really try to keep it like, look, if you're going to travel, whether you're a solo traveler, a student going to study abroad, or you're a family going to go, we have stuff for you. Like our logo is a train. Because here's the thing. If it's a plane, that's usually rich, right? You got a private plane, you're rich and all these kind of things. Or a fancy car. But the train, everybody takes a train. Doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old, if you're a man, you're a woman, if you're rich, if you're poor, we all take the train. And so when you travel the world, you see that. So like, yeah, our travel advice is for people, for everybody, right? So we want to help everybody enjoy the world. So that's what we kind of focus on. And those don'ts can help everybody that goes, whether they're a student or whether they're a family. But I want them all to have a good time and be prepared for when they travel.
What's one comment or compliment or email you received that you still think about?
I think back to one I got on a video I made in Portugal years ago, and it was a song I made, but I made it in Portuguese. It was a parody song, and it was based off American Idiot by Green Day, but it was Idioto Português. So it was like Portuguese. So I was making a song like pop references in it, and this guy got on there. It's like, you deserve the same fate as Saddam Hussein for saying these things about Portugal. And I'm like, dude, it was like literally, I'm like talking about all the Swifties, no really good music. I mean, it's nothing bad. And then I actually replied back to him like, dude, this is a parody video. It was actually on TV in Portugal. Like, cause it got on there like Secret Radical, which is like, I don't know, like an MTV kind of thing. And the guy's like, oh, I didn't realize. And then he became a huge fan. So he went from like, wow, you're giving me a death threat to like, I'm a huge fan just because you didn't understand the thing. And it's been kind of interesting over the years because we've had some, like, I will give social media this. They've done a better job of like monitoring stuff because like there were times where there was like threats on me and my wife and my kids, and you're like, oh my goodness, and then you're like, I remember I was filming in Hamburg and I'm like looking around the whole time while I'm filming because it was like kind of scary, and then it's like, wait, most of these people are just doing it to be a jerk, and then you're like, oh, okay. And I think that's one of the toughest things. Anybody who wants to get into social media, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on LinkedIn, or well, not LinkedIn so much, but like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, you got to have thick skin. You got to have like, the duck where the water just rolls off you, because those trolls, they'll keep coming because they want you to do something. They want you to say something. And most of the time, I just kind of like my wife, she has a hard time. That's why she doesn't do a lot of videos, because she takes it very personally. And I'll tell you, trolls on YouTube are bad. But when it comes to women, they're horrible to women. It is horrible to see. Like the comments my wife will get versus the comments I will get. It's you're like, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with you people? Like how they talk to her sometimes, and it's bad. And so I'm like, don't read the comments, like, because she does very good stuff. Like her background's in architectural history, and so she goes like, okay, you're here, let's explain this building here. People say stupid. I'm like, why are they being that way? Oh, because they're trying to be funny, or they're trying to like, be powerful or something. I don't know, but that's one of the things. Anybody that does want to do these things, like you'll see as your stuff grows, you'll get those comments. You're like, what, why? Where's this even coming from? So, yeah.
And the other thing is that you mostly remember the negative one and not the positive ones. Mm-hmm. And even if someone feels positive about what you're doing, mm-hmm. they usually don't share it, and they just keep it to themselves. So that's something that
Well, that's one thing I do like, because I will get random like tweets or random DMs on Instagram from somebody who's never commented on a video, never because tell you, oh, they've commented on 5 of your videos, or they've liked these posts, or they followed you for 6 years, and they're like, I've watched your videos for years, and I use it for my travels. I just want to say thank you. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I could be a little part of your travels, because that's the best thing about it. I mean, we have over 210 million views on our travel channel. And it's like, that's 210 million people that watched our videos that helped them travel and see more of the world. I'm like, I got to be a little part of their trip, and it's like, that's kind of cool. You know, it's like I got to help them. So when they say thank you, it's like, that's awesome. I appreciate it. You know, and so we do have people that are very nice. Like we have a wonderful fan base that, you know, we'll do lives. They'll get up on there and we travel around. They'll meet up with us and stuff. That's really cool. But yeah, like it's like anything. We always remember the mean things somebody says and not all the nice stuff. But so like, hence why that was one that came up. Because, you know, also if I told you about the nice things people say, it doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, no, there's a lot of really nice, there's been a lot of really wonderful fellow travelers, as we call everyone on the thing, over the years. And that's been one of the nice things. Like my students, like people say, what's the thing you love about their teaching you love the most? The students. Like having my students, seeing them grow, seeing them succeed, getting to know them, that's the best part of being a professor. Like that's awesome. Yeah, what's the worst part? There's a lot of worst parts. Like the idea, let's focus on the good. Like that's one of those things you want to try to do. Because then it helps you to keep making more. Because if I just focus on trolls and mean people, then I would stop making videos. I'm like, no. Because I know there's that family out there that's going to be taking their first trip to Europe or first trip to South America, you know, next summer, and they don't know anything. I can help them be ready so they feel more comfortable. So instead of just staying in their hotel in Sao Paulo, they go and explore and go to Minas Gerais, or they go, you know, they go to Rio, or they see something else. And I'm like, hey, if I helped you feel comfortable to see the world, that's the best compliment ever.
What do you think the most popular videos about the U.S.?
Because you have our largest demographic is the U.S. audience, and our don'ts are our most popular topic. So the don'ts to the U.S. was kind of one that kind of fit in there. I thought our shocks to the U.S. video would do better. I mean, it has like 2 million views or something, but I thought that would have been the biggest one, but the don'ts one did the best. The second one is what Americans shouldn't wear when they travel, and that's got some really mean comments. Because they're like, people are like, we wear baseball caps all the time. I'm like, no, you don't. Yeah, but I just don't comment back. That was one I never read the comments on because I'm like, I put a little things like, look, this is geared towards more like 35 plus travelers that, you know, it's a different thing versus, you know, like you get a lot of 15-year-old kids that are like, I wear sweatpants all the time. I'm like, I'm sure, but when you're traveling and you're 35, you probably don't wear sweatpants as you walk around, you know, and bump into the Pope, or, you know, at the Vatican or something, you know, so that's kind of funny.
Have you ever doubted, in these like 13 years you've been making these videos, have you ever had a moment where you doubted you yourself making it or questioned it?
I never thought it would turn into what it did. Like I started doing these things for fun. And then I remember my wife, it was 2012, we got a letter from United Airlines. They're like, hey, you have all these miles. If you don't use them, they're going to expire. And I'm like, because we had just moved back. I just finished my PhD. I just started working here. And I'm like, we had no money. We had nothing. You know, I'm like, we can't really afford a lot of stuff, but I don't want to lose all these miles. So we used all our miles. We flew all of us to Europe. And then we did it. And then literally a month before we go, my wife's like, don't make the videos. Like, let's just go and enjoy it. Because we thought this could be our last trip, you know. And then YouTube's like, hey, would you like to monetize your videos? Like, let's monetize your video. Like, oh, we'll put ads on your videos and then you'll get paid. I'm like, I could get paid to do this? Because I think we were doing it for like 4 years before we actually got paid. You know, and I'm like, okay. And like it was funny because like the first checks were like, $50. You know, so it was like, $50. Hey, my wife and I can go out to dinner. Let's like once a month we could go out to dinner. We had little kids, we had nothing. And so that was like a huge thing. We can go out to dinner. And then for 6 months, it was like $150. We can go to the grocery store. And it's like, next thing you know, it's a car payment. Next thing you know, it's a house payment. You know, and it's like, and it's just grown and grown. And it's funny because it was like, slow. Then it went like this. And then COVID came and, it's travel. It didn't do very well during that. But now it started to come back. It's like, hey. And now we have a nice like core. It's like, look, if you want honest travel advice, it's going to help you travel wherever you go in the world. I'm going to be there for you. Because we have 2,200 videos just on our main channel, not counting all of our other channels for stuff. So we do that. And then the funny thing was like, during COVID, I didn't want to put out anything promoting travel. So we actually moved to doing live feeds. So every Wednesday and Saturday for March, April, May, into June, we did lives for people. And like that was their outlet. So people would come for our Whiskey Wednesdays and we'd sit there and drink whiskey and we'd reminisce about traveling and destinations and stuff just to talk. But the thing was, there's so many people like, you're the only thing we had during that first 2 months during COVID. Like that was part of their lives. And like we ended up stopped doing it twice a week. And then we stopped by July because people were starting to go out more and have lives again, So it was kind of interesting. And then we was like, well, let's go travel. So we spent COVID traveling around the US. So the kids had seen all over the world, they hadn't seen a lot of the US. So we're like, hey, let's take them around. So we did a bunch of trips during that time, which was really cool. So
have you ever had trouble balancing your two lives, which is one of a YouTuber and one of a professor?
Not really, because some people have hobbies like they go ride bikes
Right.
or they put boats in little bottles. My hobby is doing YouTube. Like it's not like no, I have my work hours and so my work hours are divided. No, like where some people like go and watch sports. Like people ask me like, what do you watch on Netflix? Nothing. I don't watch TV. I watch YouTube with my kids at 9:00 at night because he's like, I want to go to bed, but can we watch a sci show? I'm like, okay. Next thing I was like 10. I'm like, dude, you got to be in bed. And then because I never sleep. So for me, it's like, hey, wise to sleep, good to sleep. I'll go work on a video. So I've never had that problem of one takes over the other. They actually kind of complement each other. Like I've been really happy with our Professor Wolters channel. Like during COVID, we actually raised almost $2,000 for the Emergency Dean Fund here at the U of I. Just like we did it was like 16 hours straight of teaching, just teaching my course. Like not all, like a very abridged version of it, just to try to raise money because they were hurting for money at that time, and all these kids were trying to get sent home, and we didn't know what's going to go on. Like, hey, let's try to raise money, and it's allowed me to be able to help other people, and that's been cool. And so it was nice for me in terms of my students and how their education was when COVID hit. We all went online instead of having me in my office, like looking my camera up my nose kind of view. I'm like, oh hey, excuse me. I actually had videos already set up. So like, this week is global marketing. So here's the videos that I've already filmed. And I've been filming these videos for years. I've been filming these videos before I was at U of I. I've been doing this for 13, 14. Well, Wolters World started in 2009. I started making videos. My first YouTube channel, I think, started in 2007. And so this has been something that's been going on for a while. And sometimes it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll slip in like an old video. And they'll be like, oh my God, Professor, you are so skinny and good looking. I'm like, thanks on both accounts. So, but what's cool is like that really helped me in making the video. So I'm like, look, I saw what works for students because I know I don't want to watch a head talk next to a whiteboard for 2 hours. Like, look, let's break it up. Let's make, like a usual class would be like 10 videos of 5 to 7 minutes long. And I'll make, like, I don't film them all in the same location. I'll divide it up. So like we're in Luxembourg. So I'll film a video for topic 1, topic 3, and topic 7. And then we're in Rwanda and I'll film a couple there, to like make it more interesting for them. And what's cool is it's not, looking at slides, you can look in your slide book, that's not fun. That's not education. That's reading. So what was nice is I was just talking. And occasionally some words would pop up, the main topic words. But like you have your book there, the book deals with these topics, but you're getting in a more real world setting. And I think that helped a lot, like for my students to learn. And that's one thing. Like I've done a lot of different things. Like I've developed programs for companies and for government organizations, like whether it's social media or public speaking or whatever to help them. Like, look, I can now help other people out there that weren't getting help before. And it's funny because like I get hired to do like classes, but it's not for the travel. The huge channel, no, it's for the small Professor Wolters channel. They're going like, hey, we love how you teach. Can you help us? Like, sure. And that's what's cool because those things, one of the things that's nice is I'll get emails from like high schools and junior highs like, hey, could you come talk to us? Like, sure. And so when they're like, but back in the day when you'd only do things in person, like, it was very limited where I could go. But once COVID hit, they're like, hey, could you be online? I'm like, sure. So I'm zooming to schools all over the country, all over the world. It's like, hey, it's kind of cool. And I was actually back in my hometown a couple months ago, and this lady came up and said, hey, thanks for talking to my class. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even remember I actually talked to the high school or the junior high of my hometown because I'd done so many. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And I'm like, my mom's like, that's the junior high German teacher. I'm like, oh, cool, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But it was kind of funny. So, yeah, no, it's nice because the democratization of education. Like I know Geese, that's one of our things, and the U of I's things, like democratization of education. Let's get more people learning. So me, like I want to help as many people learn as possible. So that's why whether you're learning about travel, whether you're learning about business or social media, food, we have all kinds of channels for all these things to help people learn and grow on their own. And that's, I think that's one of the things now we have so much information at our fingertips. You can grow on your own, but it's got to be you. Like you have to focus on it. Whereas before, like you have a rigid structure of a class. Now, if you want to learn on your own, you can, but you have to be the one that pushes yourself. And that sometimes can be tough.
So you're teaching so many people. What is something that you're learning right now?
What am I learning right now? I'm learning how to be a better YouTuber and learning how to do better with the vertical videos, like the TikToks and stuff like that. So I've been working on developing like short form videos like, the 15, 30-second stuff. So that's what I'm trying to work on now. So though it doesn't do much, but it's kind of fun little things to do, because when Vine was up, I was like, maybe I'll do that. But I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Then I'm like, wait a minute, I can just have little tips. Because sometimes you can't make a 20-minute video about like, well, don't drink the water here. It's like, oh, but I can make a 30-second video. Like, hey, if you're in this country, you don't want to drink the tap water because of X, Y, and Z. What you should do is, one, either have the pills, two, buy bottled water. And that's, oh, hey, like that's a little short one that could actually work. Hey, there we go. And so that's what I've been trying to do lately. So now when we travel, like I'll do my, don'ts of travel, like the long form video, and then I'll pick 2 or 3 of them. Like, hey, you know what? These are really important ones people need to know. I'm going to do a little short, because sometimes that's what people find. Because YouTube, for example, is really pushing those things, and that helps get seen on TikTok and on Instagram and all these other places. So trying to learn to be a better creator so I can help more people.
You think you'll I mean, that's something you'll never stop.
No.
Because there'll always be any.
Yeah, that's because people ask me, so would you ever stop teaching to go YouTube full time? Because we could, but I'm like, no, I love teaching. Like my wife is even like, you'll retire one day, but you'll probably retire, then go take like an adjunct job at some local school by where we live, because I just love teaching. Like I love teaching. I want to help my students. Like I get really upset when my students don't succeed. So I'm like, I failed you somehow. Like I want you to do well. So that's why when I teach, like some people say edutainment, but I was like, look, if you're having a good time in the class, you actually learn better. Because like, hey, that was actually a funny story. That was like, yeah, you know what? You remember it. You'd be like, oh, that stuff's, simple. Everyone knows those things. They don't actually, but I made it in the way you thought it was, and therefore you remember it because you think it's easy. And there you go. So,
what's your video on the Don'ts of Urbana-Champaign?
My Don'ts of Urbana-Champaign,
Yeah.
I actually have it written, but I've
Actually?
learned. Yes, I actually I had it written this summer. I have a red book. I write all my scripts in books, and I like have a banana or a gorilla clip, and I clip it on my tripod when I have it. I actually do have it, but I do not have it filmed, and I will not have it filmed for a while because I don't like filming in places where I live, because some people don't find it fun when you point things out that are true, or so. But one thing is, don't forget to come. I mean, I can have the nice ones. So, if you're going to come, don't think it's just football and basketball. Go to some of the games. Like going to a volleyball game is always fun. Or going to, I like going to women's soccer games. It's kind of a cool thing to do. There's all these sports you can have. But one of the things is just like when Illinois wasn't good at football, you're good this year. It's like, the tailgates and stuff is nice. And don't forget the things that are around here, because so many people think it's just the campus. Yeah, but then I'll give you one. Like, don't think that townies and university people get along. Like that's one thing I think the Champaign community could do a lot better at is like integrating the college, the university into the city, and it's done better. I won't lie to you, it's a lot better now than it was when I went to school here in the '90s, where it's literally like you're a town of university people, it was like no one talks. Now it's starting to get better, and I think that's part of the outreach. Like at Geese, we're doing all these things to get local businesses to work with our students and projects. So now the students are working with the local community, and it's helping building things up. So I think that's one thing that's getting better. But in general, it's like, hey, it's campus town, city. Sometimes it's a little different. So, but I won't go any farther. I don't want to ruin it. That's one of those things.
Of course.
So,
what's your process for writing this script? So like, okay, here's the thing. Just quickly, like for like Urbana-Champaign, like what was you went in your book?
Well, most of our stuff's from my experience.
Whiskey.
Yeah, bourbon. It's bourbon. Whiskey Wednesdays is a good thing. Now, so how it usually works, if it's a destination, because I traveled a lot even before, like I'll have some overall ideas from my previous travels there. I'll probably go through maybe, I don't know, like 100 blogs and read through their stuff, and then I'll watch maybe 20 YouTube videos. And then if you ever watch any of our live feeds, it'll be in our library in our house. Like we don't have a dining room, we have a library. And there's a whole wall of travel books. And I will read the history of the country, the culture of the country. Because I think that's one thing people miss is like, if you read about the history of a country, it really explains a lot of how people are. Like, oh yeah, I get it now. It's like knowing the language. Like if you know the language, you start to see some of those differences. Oh, you have 6 different words for the color blue because of how it means to you. Oh, I got it now. Like that explains things. And so I'll read all that stuff. And I have some rough ideas about some stuff I want to talk about, but I won't film like the don'ts of, I don't know, I'm going to Manchester here soon. I'm like, the don'ts of Manchester. I'm not going to do that day one. I'm going to stay there a few more days. I have my ideas. I'm like, but those are those people's ideas. I want to come up with my own ideas. And so then I'll go around and see how things are, and then I put it together. And I usually film the don'ts the last day I'm in a location, because then I've had a few days there to really like get some stuff in, like start to feel it more, so it works better. That's why I usually have the most fun the first few days, because it's more exploring. Like let's see what the city has to offer. See what the country has to offer. So I'll do that. And then the actual filming part, I actually usually film in the morning. because there's less people out, so it's less noise. And when I travel with my family, I let them sleep in. So like I'll get up at 6 or 7, go out, find it out, because I usually have scouted out a place to film, and I'll put my stuff up, and I can get a bunch of videos filmed. You know, some will be Professor Wolters, some will be Wolters World, some will be Wolters World Eats, whatever. They're different channels, and I'll film those. And by like 9:30, like the city's kind of come alive. About 10, it's got loud enough. I'm like, I can't film anymore. Take my stuff, go back to the hotel, drop the stuff off there. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go explore for the day, and then we just go explore for the day. And then maybe if the kids like want to have a break, you know, when they were little, like we go to a park. Like you'll notice, there's a lot of videos I have where we're right at a park. Because literally, like, I'm talking, like, there's the camera there. I'm talking to the camera, but right behind the camera is my kids playing. So, made it a little bit easier. So,
Interesting.
yeah. And then, of course, when I walk around, I just have my phone. I just film all the B-roll as I walk around. So then, I mean, because I don't want to be the influencer in the wild where I'm walking around with a big camera and doing all this stuff and ruining other people's travels. I'm like, yeah, I can just hold my phone. I'm just a normal person. And I'll be out of the way to film my talking part. It doesn't look as cool. It's not like the vlogs where here we are. But that's not what I am. I want to help people. So.
And that goes back to where you found this, pamphlet about Italy and it was really bad.
Yes.
Has there been a time in your life where when you look back and you feel really fortunate, you feel really happy, maybe it was meeting having Mr. Moore in 5th grade, or maybe it was meeting your wife.
You did your research, my friend.
In Portugal and whatever. Like, what's been one moment?
There's not one moment. I think every day is a blessing. Like, and that's just, and the thing is, a lot of us, we think back like, oh, that was the perfect day. Or that was like, no, tomorrow could be a better day. If you're having a bad day, just go to bed. Wake up tomorrow, it'll be another day. And that's one thing is like every day you wake up, like I was born with 2 holes in my heart. I was supposed to die. Like every single day since I've been born has been a blessing. So for me, like that's what people say, you take such joy in life. I'm like, yeah, because I should have been dead in 1976. But I'm still here in 20-something. I'm like, hey, I've been blessed every single day. We've all been blessed. So go out and enjoy it. Don't focus on the negative. Focus on the positive and go forward with it. And so that's why for me, like we travel around the world. I'm like, we are blessed with this. Like, thank you. Like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's one of those things you can't help but be thankful for.
It's the finiteness of things that make you appreciate everything that you have more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you think like I've had friends that we've lost over the years. I'm like, man, their kids never got to do that with their dad, or. Like my parents are older now, we still travel with them. And my kids get to have a relationship with their grandparents. Like I have friends of mine, their parents died before they had kids. So they never knew their grandparents, Like we're blessed to have that, Like you find those little things, even if it's like that's why I try never to be negative. Like that's weird I have the don'ts, the biggest thing, but it's like they're mostly positive stuff. So look, life's too short to be negative. Like just if you're positive, it helps you feel better here and here, and it helps other people feel better too. So why make people feel worse by treating them like garbage? Just be positive. So.
What do you wish you? Is a different way to ask this question. Is like, what advice do you have for someone in high school, college about how to live a life well lived, a life of travel, a life of happiness? And
I think. I mean, I've been very lucky, but it's not just luck. Like I work my butt off for all this stuff. Like that's one thing is like be proud of the work you do and put pride into your work. Because like people get upset. Like, well, my YouTube channel, like I'm like people all the time would tell me, you're never going to be a success on YouTube. You're a fat old dude. Like I had friends of mine like, why do you make these videos? Why would they watch you when they could look a good looking man from Venezuela right there? I'd rather look at you for 10 hours than me. Like, well, I give advice to people who actually help, and people want that, and it's like. Find something that you love. Like it's the old adage, you find a job you love, it's never a job, it's true. But here's one of the things, is find a job you love, but find a job you love that pays the bills. Because one of the things is like you can have something you love, but if you can't pay the bills, then you have that pressure from that. Like you have that worry. Can I pay the electrical bill this month? Can I pay for my kids' school? Can I feed my family? And when you have compared to that, it's like, hey, everything what we've gotten has been lucky. So you have to think about it in terms of what is it going to take? What do I need to do for it? Right? So like, for example, if I wanted to do better at YouTube, well, what do? I need to learn how the shorts work, the TikTok videos. I need to do better with my thumbnails and pictures, the title, like we were talking about, like these kind of things. Like, look, if I want to do better, I have to do it. Because no one's out there going, here you go. Here's a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers. No one's going to do that. Even Mr. Beast can't do that for you. Mr. Beast, if you're on Mr. Beast, he says, oh, go follow Mark. you'll get a few thousand subscribers. And then after a few months, they'll be gone because they subscribe because Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast isn't on your channel. So I would say, find something that you love, but find something that can pay the bills. And even if something like, because YouTube stuff, it was never a job for me. It was a hobby. I just have to have a hobby that allows me to do cool stuff, And so I've been lucky with that. But sometimes, I have friends who do the same thing I do, but they just don't make videos. But they make it a point, hey, our family budget, instead of if you go out with us, I know I've put on 100 pounds since I got married because my wife's such a good cook. But also, we don't go out to eat. I'm if I go out to eat at an Italian restaurant here in town, and I take my family, we're gonna spend $100. If I go to Italy, I can get that same meal in Italy, which is better, for $50. So why don't I save that money and I get 2 meals in Italy? So we started making financial choices about what we're going to do. We haven't had cable TVs. Since our second apartment in Portugal in 2000, or so in 2011. So 2011 was the last time we had cable. Think about how much money we've saved in 11 years of no cable, and the usual cable bill is what, $150, $200 a month? That's a lot of money. That's $2,000 a year you're saving just not having cable, right? We only had one car until our fourth year here. Only one car payment. You start making these financial decisions, you start to see maybe I don't need that Starbucks. I know people rip on millennials and stuff like the Starbucks, but you know what? It's okay to have Starbucks, but maybe don't have it every day. Instead of having 2 a day, have 1 a day. Don't be a hermit. But you know what? If you have, that's $35 a day. That's an EasyJet flight from Lisbon to Rome. And in a month times 4, that's $1,200 or $120. Oh snap! That's that's an Allegiant flight back and forth. You're going down to Florida. These things add up. And so that's what that's what I try to tell people. It's look, there's not free travel. That's why I always get upset with Travel World for free stuff. Because if you have the points from the credit cards, yeah, here's the thing. You have to spend $4,000 on that credit card to get all those points. So are you going to spend $4,000 in the next 3 months on something? So you're not going to get those things. You're going to have to spend $4,000 and pay that back. So it's not free travel. That's where I get kind of riled up. I'm people you're not telling the full truth. You're not letting people know that, look, it takes hard work to do this, right? And I understand it because, you want to be look, I have been blessed. I have been lucky. And other people have been blessed. But you look at Mr. Beast. You look at some of these other, they've worked their butts off, right? The Hank Green, John Green, they have all these YouTube channels. And they work all the time. They've got 20 channels. But they're working all the time, And so realize that if you find something that you like doing, like I said, I don't feel like it's working when I do YouTube. It's my hobby. You have something like that, it goes a long way. So it really doesn't answer your question. I don't know. That's just how my life has been and how I kind of see things. So,
what is something that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Something I wish I knew when I was younger. I don't know. We could say, well, I wish I would have invested in this or that, but no. If I was younger, it'll be all right. Things will be all right. Just relax. You don't have to worry. That's one of those things. It's because we do so many things because we're scared or worried about something. If you just took a step back and that's why when people tell you hey, relax, you can't relax. Right. But if you did relax, you're okay, I see I'm just freaking out for no reason. I think that's one of those things just relax. It's going to be okay. Because that's what sometimes we want. We just want that hug. We want that tap on the back. We want that fist bump. Hey, it's going to be good. That makes a big difference, and I think that would be one thing for me. Hey, relax, it's going to be okay. I'm oh. Because, when you have kids, it's one thing when you're young, and you'll see, as you get older, if you have a family, then there's other things, and then you got kids, and then it's you're worried about every little thing. It's hey, just step back. Take it all in. You've been blessed to have all these things. Take it in and enjoy it. Just do that.
I like it. To end our show, we have a section called Underrated or Overrated.
Underrated, overrated, okay.
And we give you a prompt, and you tell us whether you think it's underrated or overrated.
Okay. So underrated means it's better than people think, and overrated means it's worse than people think.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Perfect.
Okay.
You got it.
All right.
Not people, you.
Your
opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
You stretch out for that. This is usually the rapid fire ones. Usually where you get in trouble, so I'll do my best. Okay.
First one, Travelscope, the PBS show.
Underrated. Joseph Rosendo, he's the one that inspired us to go to Rwanda. He has no shame, and he'll look like a fool just to show people stuff. I respect him. If people say who's somebody you can have lunch with, I would want to have lunch with Joseph Rosendo. So from Travelscope. So if you're on PBS, you watch PBS, look for Joseph Rosendo, Travelscope. Old dude, but awesome at what he does.
Have you tried reaching out to him ever?
I have not. Well, I actually no.
You
He
should
has
do
written
that.
us back. He has written us back because we've typed on his Facebook and stuff to say hi. How much? So that's one thing is we've reached out to people before. No one ever talks back to us. So anyway, but he did say hi.
That's something that we can maybe teach you. Is like this entire show is based on.
How about
the,
this? We'll invite him on the talk show, and then we'll let you
invite
have
him.
it.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I'll hold you to that one. Cool. Next one.
Having your own, related to the Travelscope, having your own TV show, underrated or
Overrated.
'Cause I could see you at some point, or maybe you've gotten offers.
Yeah,
already.
we have had offers. We actually got to the point of contract talks, but what you had to give up in order, and what it wasn't worth it. For me, that's why you see a lot of people now, like with YouTube. That's what's so great about YouTube is it gives everybody a voice. That's what I love about social media. You don't just have to be in Hollywood. You can be in Champaign, Illinois, and make a difference in the world, right? And so it was one of those things like, you know what? I'm good with YouTube. I mean, I'd love to have a TV show, but it's got to be the right kind of setup. Like, I'd want to make sure it was super honest travel stuff, not clickbait, over the top. Like, oh, was there a ghost there? like any other Travel Channel show. Anyway.
So was that the reason why you said no? Because he was like that.
Well, it was how the contract was set up. Like, it was the length of the contract and how much was paid. Like, we couldn't even pay our mortgage. Like, they're like, you have to stop making your videos. You got to take all your videos down. And then, and you're going to sign this contract with us. And for a certain number of months, you will only work with us. You will only do stuff with us. And I'm like, I can't even feed my family what you're trying to pay me on this. Like, well, you should have your own. I'm like, it's not my job. Like, this is a job. And so it was really eye-opening. I was like, oh, wow. Because we had interviewed with some other places that never got this far. And this one did get pretty far. And I was just like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that to my family. It's like, there's this thing called insurance that is important to have when you have a family. And there was none of that stuff with it. So, but if there was another opportunity came up, which was like, hey, we want you to do the same kind of show you're doing, but good production value, high production value, not just me and my tripod, I'm like, yeah, if we can make sure it's honest, we're helping people travel, then I would totally go for it. But in that sense, it's still overrated because you can still make a huge impact even if you're just on YouTube.
Next one, the upcoming YouTuber Liam Wolter. Overrated.
Underrated. He's underrated. His food stuff. He's actually got some really good jokes. His brother goes to school now. He's not at the house now, so Liam's really kind of coming to his own. Because when you're the little brother, older brother talks all the time. So now it's him getting to talk more. I do know he needs someone to play off of. We need to get Liam with somebody because that's when he gets his jokes going. Because then he makes jokes with them. Because with me, he's like, it takes him a little while to warm up.
Right.
But he can be pretty funny. So.
There's in India. There's she showed me this YouTube channel, and it was these two guys that started when they were young, and they were just
they're in college,
yeah,
college,
whatever.
And basically, what they did was they reviewed old Bollywood movies, and
I think I've seen them.
Have you? Pretentious movie reviews.
Yes,
is their YouTube channel. Yeah,
I was like, why? Because it showed them I don't even watch Bollywood movies, but okay,
yeah. So
that could be a suggestion. Yeah.
That's one of those things. So that's actually one. So we were looking at him watching old Christmas, the old school Christmas, Charlie Brown Christmas stuff and Frosty, but the 1950s, 60s version or whatever. Haven't watched it, then him do a review. Because he's just reviewing his candy and stuff now, and we do candy rankings. Because he loves his bless your rank where they try different stuff. That's where he started his stuff. But that's one thing I think he'd have a fun time with. Because he'll come up with some ones that he thinks are funny, but aren't funny, but the thing he follows it up with is hilarious. And you're like, nice. So I will tell him that it's been requested that he do reviews. So we can use pressure from Dad and Dad's friends to get him to do it.
Maybe he can review your videos.
That's what so my oldest one, he's older now. He went through the phase when he was a teenager. I don't need the videos because people are like, where's your oldest son? They're like, it's funny because people are like, did you kill him? Did you throw him away? I'm like, no, he was 16. He didn't want to be in the videos, so we didn't put him in the videos. It's called respect.
He's too cool for that,
yeah, he's too cool for it. Now he's okay. So he'll be in our Christmas video this year. We do 12 days of Christmas where we film each day in different places around the world. Mm-hmm. But each time that day comes up, so it's the first day is on the first day of Christmas, my true love gives to me a traveling family. And so there's 12 times you sing it, but it's in 12 different destinations. Mm-hmm. And then number 2 is 2 travel buddies. So it's us with a friend traveling around the world, some different place. And then it's 3 local foods. So then we eat 3 different foods in different places. But everyone. So last year he wasn't in it at all. Like he was like the back of his head, like he doesn't know it was in there, but the back of his head was the video. This year he's in the last one where we do the big one at the end and a traveling family. Then he's in there and 2 other ones. So it's like, hey, I'll take it.
Yeah,
So,
he's back.
yeah.
The next one. The best businesses don't come from business schools.
The best businesses don't come.
Or the biggest businesses, or whatever you want to frame it.
I think that's overrated because you'll have people like, well, Shaq never went to college or never graduated from college, or Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard and Facebook, and like, yeah, there are those situations, but for a normal person, no, getting a college degree is a great thing. But one thing I got to say is people need to realize not everyone has to go to college. There's so many great careers you can do without a college education, which is weird having me say that being a college professor, but it's realistic. There's so many wonderful opportunities out there that it's not just going to college. You can do great things. Like my buddy's an electrician who makes like 5 times more money than I do. And that's what he does. Yeah, I'm like, that's awesome. My friend of mine owns a lawn cutting business. Makes 10 times more money than I do. Just cutting lawns. Like just find something that works for you. It doesn't have to be, like with a 4-year degree. But I think one of the things, if you want to get into a business, it is so helpful having that knowledge because you don't know what you don't know. Like that's one thing I tell my students. I'm like, look, if you're in the Geese College of Business, you're smart. Like if you're at U of I, you're an engineer. You guys are smart. Like I don't even have to ask. You're smart. I know you're smart. You go to U of I. But that smartness, it's a gift for us that we should share. We should help people. And so I tell my students, you're studying business. Go help out a nonprofit organization. When you get out of school or now, like, because you have people that want to do better in the community, but a lot of them don't have any business background. The fact that you've taken accounting, you can help them with their accounting. I remember I helped out our local Red Cross. They're like, oh, do you want to give out the cookies? Yeah, when we give like this, everyone wants to give out the cookies, I'm like, no, can I make your PowerPoint slides better? Because you're like trying to raise money and it looks like a 3-year-old made your slides. You're like, oh yeah, that'd be great. Like just using some of those professional skills out there makes a huge difference. And sort of that's why most small businesses fail, right? And some of it's because you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So that's why I think business school is actually a very helpful thing. It's not underrated. It's that overrated, like, it's because they had a great idea. Like that's one thing I think is also a thing. I don't know if you have this one, overrated, underrated. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to quit your job. I think that's overrated because you can have a job and have your business as well. Because I love my job. I wouldn't quit my job teaching here. Geese is U of I is a fantastic place, but I'm not gonna quit it to just do my own business because you can do both. And that's where some people they'll shame people like, oh, how could you do something else? Like, why don't you go all in? This proves you don't care enough about this business to go all in. I'm like, no, I'm realistic. I have a business that makes money, but I like the fact that I have retirement. I like the fact that I have insurance. I have life insurance. I have this stuff. I get to work with some of the best students in the world.
And I like it.
And I like it, right? And so there's another overrated, underrated for you. So
what's the most underrated place except Rwanda that you've been to?
Underrated. I started from Rwanda. Slovenia. Slovenia. If you're looking for a place in Europe, because you've got gorgeous mountains, gorgeous lakes. Ljubljana is one of the prettiest capitals as well. People are super nice. Everybody speaks English, German, Italian. Like it's easy for tourists. The food is fantastic. Because it's got like Italian influence, it's got Slavic influence, it's got Germanic influence coming in. So it's whatever you want to eat, they got it. It's really cool. But not a lot of people go there because it's kind of like it's in this weird spot. It's like you're not passing through. Like a lot of destinations, people go there because if I'm going from Paris to Berlin, I'm going to go to Amsterdam because it's kind of like on the train, like exactly, but it's like on the way.
Right.
But there's a place like Bordeaux in France. It's the end of the line. You don't go anywhere from there. So people don't go there, which they should because it's fantastic. The Basque Country in Spain, it's kind of out by itself, so people don't go there as much. Fantastic place, totally underrated. Nicaragua, totally underrated. But people are like, there's some issues, but there's some really great places. Granada, Nicaragua is one of the prettiest cities in Central America. And people don't go. So.
You were young when this thing was going on, but Supersonic flyer or the Concorde, overrated, underrated?
I think it was overrated, just because the price, it was so expensive. Like it wasn't justifiable. Like in today's money, it would be like $50,000 for a 4-hour flight. Come on.
Let's say now it's cheaper. Would you like to travel?
They're making a comeback.
Yeah, they're coming with new. I'd be interested just because the thing, but you can't. The thing is, like, you can only do the supersonic over the ocean. because you have all the sound requirements, you can't go that fast. So it's not going to help us like Chicago to London as much. But like New York to London, yeah, boom, you're there in what, it'll be like 2.5 hours, I think, the new ones they're saying. That would be kind of cool. But I don't see it going everywhere just because the like sonic booms. People don't want to hear boom, 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 like out their backyard all the time. So got to be realistic. Be cool, be very cool, but realistically, it's hard to do.
But you know, sometimes you're realistic once you're looking backwards. So sometimes you just have to push it.
If I only knew a great engineering school that could work on that. You guys know any good engineers?
You'd be surprised, but the best engineering stuff don't come from engineering.
Where's it come from?
People who just want to tinker with things and just make things happen.
Cool. Very cool. So I want to ask you then. I'll go find somebody else. No, I'm just kidding. What else? Any other ones?
How about India? Underrated or overrated?
Yeah, you didn't mention Asia. I was surprised.
So I taught in China, Japan. India, I think, is very underrated because people don't realize it's so big and it's so diverse within itself. And most people just go, oh, it's north and south. I'm like, yeah, but there's so much more to it.
Which places have you been?
I have been.
Oh, you haven't
been? Because that's another one I want to take the kids for. And India is so big, there's so much. I don't want to go for like 10 days. I want to go for a month.
Yeah.
But the thing is when do I have more than a month? In the summer. Do you think I do very well in India in July?
You will.
It'll be a little warm for me.
It will.
Warm. So that's why I'd rather do that in the winter, like we had, because I get
winter.
That would be my preferable time to go.
Yeah.
And I've had so many students from India over the years. I'm like, literally just going from former student to former student to former, well, friends now, like friend to friend to friend to friend. I have one friend, like he went on one of my study abroad trips. This is like, oh my God, that's like, it's been like 10 years since he graduated or something. Like he's like, you just give me the day you arrive and the day you leave. He's like, no. You just give me the day you come in and the day you leave, and it's all taken care of. I'm like, all right, sweet.
He'll make the videos for you too. And
yeah, I know, it's funny. He's like, oh. Yeah, I know. Like that's one of the places I feel bad I haven't gone to yet, because I think that's one that people don't really know. Like, oh, the Taj Mahal. I'm like, yeah, Taj Mahal.
Yeah, again, it's the same thing. Yeah. Like, people only know the big things, but not it's only when you like go beyond the book and like the time to explore and take the train you wouldn't normally take.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, if you don't do that, you don't really get that cultural experience. And if I only had 10 days, I wouldn't get to have that. So it'd be the most superficial video, and I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah,
sorry.
It would just be like a textbook like travel video, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And how we do stuff, I don't want that. Like, it would be a disservice to people going to India and the people in India if we did that. Mm-hmm. So, but that is one of the ones we'll be getting to. Don't worry.
You will fall in love with the food.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So when we lived in Portugal, there's like the best Indian food. Oh no, it's Portugal. But the best Indian food in town was literally like the next build. Like, we lived on the second floor, and it was the first floor right next to us. So we ate it it was like literally all the time. I'm like, oh. And when I lived in Berlin, there was some good Indian food there. And it was funny because in Germany they don't like spicy foods, and I really like spicy foods.
Then you'll fall in love.
Oh, I did. That's how I fell in love with it, because a friend of mine took me to have Indian food, because I grew up in the cornfields, man. There was no Indian food where I lived.
Right.
Yeah. So my friend took me to this one in Berlin. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I ended up going back 3 or 4 times a week for 2.5 years. So after about a year, like they make, I'm like, hotter, and they get it hotter. It get to the point like when they bring out the bowl, like you'd see people sweating as they walk by. And so I stood with this one time. The guy puts it down, and the guy says, "Oh, I want to get what he wants." He's like, "You're not allowed to get that." We've trained him over a year to eat this stuff. I was like, I was so proud. It's like my proudest moment in Germany. I'm like, you can't eat this. I can. So.
One of my friends is traveling with me to India this winter break.
Cool.
And he doesn't eat spicy food, so I'm gonna try to train him in that short period of time.
Good luck, my friend. Good luck.
And then the last one before we end.
Yes.
Chicago being the best city in the U.S. Overrated or underrated?
I think it's overrated.
You don't like it?
Oh, no, I didn't say I didn't like it. It's just not the best city in the U.S. I think there's places that I would like, if for a traveler, Chicago's in my top 10 for the U.S. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. But if you're looking at big cities in the U.S., if I have to be honest, I would send people to New York first. Savannah, Georgia is great. New Orleans, I'd have go first. If you're looking on the West Coast, I would actually probably go to a national park first, even though it's not safe. Like, you're getting more impact there. But Chicago's cool because, just look at the museums we have. One of the best collections of museums in the entire country, from the Museum of Science and Industry, the Shedd Aquarium. You go into the Field Museum. Yeah, you got the Art Institute. It's just world-renowned, amazing stuff. And I like going to Chicago. But I have to be honest, like it would be probably number 4 on my list in the U.S. for the big cities or the bigger cities to go to as a traveler. So sorry, that's what we're here for. Gotta be honest. Can't pander to Illinois. Gotta be honest.
It's true. It's true.
So
That's true. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
well, thank you very much for
We had a
having
lovely
me.
time.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. If you ever want me back, I'll glad to come back. Y'all have a good time. This was a fun time. Good interview, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
it. Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed just listening to these conversations about the world and all the things that we don't know that we're missing out on. It's people like Dr. Wolters who have traveled the world and have seen so many cultures that we can learn so much from. As he mentioned, people are the same all over the world, regardless of where you go. Even the person sitting next to you in a bus is probably very similar to how you think and how you are. So the next time you're on a bus or on a train or around strangers, don't be afraid to just say hi or like ask a question. There are so many things that are common. Like he mentioned, the pandemic happened to all of us, regardless of which culture, which society you're from.
Mm.
But it's something that connects all of us. And look for those connections and look for ways you can interact with more people and learn from them, because the more context you have, the more perspective you have, the more you'll learn to appreciate the world around you, and it'll just help you be a happier and live a more fulfilled life, in my opinion. So
Well said, my friend. Well said.
thank you. This is the UIUC Talk Show. Be happy, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.